Welcome, everyone, to Color Commentary. We are your pauper commentators, Michael Petchik and Adrian Gonzalez. How's it going, Adrian? Really?
Are you gonna edit that out? It's good.
No.
I've gone over 100 episodes without doing that.
This is episode 144, and you did wait this long to burp directly into the microphone as our intro. I applaud your courage and bravery in the face of overwhelming odds.
Thank you. Finally, someone recognizes my greatness. I had a dream last night that everybody loved me, and then I woke up and it was true. Everyone does love me.
We're
in real life.
We're just starting this one off on a high note. Yeah, I've been super busy. We are recording a day late. Life's been crazy over here in the Petchik household. But here we are. We're going to be talking about some pauper stuff tonight. We're going to be talking about all sorts of interesting things. But first things first, let's take care of the upkeep. Got to do it every week, so might as well. First off, we are brought to you in part by Original Magic Art. Original Magic Art is an online store with all sorts of tokens, dice bags, playmats, and art prints from throughout the world of Magic and the world at large. And we're affiliates over there. So if you would like to get some fancy play supplies, you can either go to the URL originalmagicart.store/commentary, or when you're in the checkout process, use the affiliate code commentary in all caps, and that'll get you 10% off your purchase. We get a little bit of a kickback over here, so you're helping support the show, and you're getting some really nice Magic accessories for a more reasonable price. Once again, that is originalmagicart.store/commentary, or the affiliate code commentary in all caps. Both spells there in the name of the show. What do you got for us, Adrian?
Well, we have a Patreon. For just the odd episode, you too can hear the full show, including our pre- and post shows, and you get access to our patron-exclusive Discord channel. Pretty sweet. What else do we have, Mike?
Finally, we are hosted in part by Hipsters of the Coast. They are a great content hub for all things Magic the Gathering, all sorts of formats, all sorts of articles. So if you need news or information about one of your other favorite formats, you can go check them out and follow them on social media. All right. So, Adrian.
Yes, Mike.
Pretty slow week this week.
Pretty slow. Not too much news, except, oh, wait. The London Mulligan rule.
Yeah, we talked about this, I think it was 2 weeks ago at this point, maybe 3 even. I'm honestly not remembering fully, but the London Mulligan, it's going into effect on Magic Online.
And why don't you read the little press snippet there, Mike?
Yeah, so this was included in the Wizards does their weekly Magic Online announcements article, and this week one of their announcements was that from April 10th to May 1st, the London Mulligan will be the mulligan used on Magic Online, and this mulligan is part of an experiment run by Magic R&D and their never-ending efforts to improve the game we all know and love. So apply to all formats in all events and casual games. As MITGO is the best and largest way to play classic formats like Legacy and Vintage, this test will provide a critical mass of data to help R&D make a final determination as to whether to adopt this mulligan for Magic as a whole. And importantly, it will allow Mythic Championship competitors to practice their modern game while under the same conditions they'll face in London. So they're basically giving people a chance to practice with this before MC London, and also just kind of leave things up to the grand inevitable machine.
Because people cannot practice without MITGO before the tournament, you see.
Well, I mean, I think there's a reasonable amount of people who, don't have a dedicated team to grind out a bunch of games with. So,
sure.
Yeah, this is a nice thing. This will affect pauper, though, as mentioned, all formats. And we've talked about this before. We've gone into details about it.
So remind me again, what decks stand the most to gain from this new mulligan rule, and what would you be playing come this change?
I think I'd look to stuff that has a low land count and decks that we've described in the past as decks that, quote, lose to mulligans. And as I said when we first covered this, I'm not saying to go out and play one land spy. I still think that deck's a little bit less consistent than you really ideally want stuff to be. But I do think that decks like Elves and Boggles are sort of two that pop to mind that just immediately I'm like, I feel like these decks get better. Another thing I'd test,
right? Because they're a critical mass. They're critical mass decks that reward you for being able to find exactly what you need.
Yes.
That's what you're getting at, right?
Yes, and because they have a low curve, they generally sort of tend towards configurations that run a lower land count. And since both these decks can kind of operate on one land some of the time, it lets you mulligan a little bit more aggressively into a hand that does a little bit more. But yeah, and just for folks at home, in case you've forgotten, London Mulligan is every mulligan you draw a full 7. If you choose to keep it, you put X cards to the bottom of the library, where X is the number of mulligans you've taken. So you're still drawing the same amount of cards, but you're still ending up with the same amount of cards in your opener, but you get to see an additional 2, maybe 3 cards on top of that. So it definitely improves for decks that mulligan quote unquote poorly. Are there any other decks that you'd be thinking about playing with this change?
I think that it makes Affinity a little bit better because maybe you won't be so mana hosed.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now, do you think that this also hoses like top dogs like the red white Monarch and Bully decks and blue black Delver?
So those are decks that mulligan pretty well. I don't think hose is the right word. I would be very interested to see if once other other decks can mulligan a little better, I would be curious to see if that can give them some equity in those matchups.
Yeah, I could definitely see lists also being tweaked a little bit over the course, because this is almost a month worth of testing time. We might see people start to shave a few lands just to kind of up the amount of actual gas in their decks, since your mulligans are going to get better.
Yeah.
I don't think that's wrong per se, but like, be realistic with yourself. Like, don't shave like 2 lands, maybe try 1 less. But definitely going to be an interesting period to see how things shake out with this new mulligan, and maybe this is the mulligan that we see for years to come. So definitely get on there and try it out. I gotta plug for that. All right. Any other thoughts on the London Mulligan?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So we picked out, as sort of our other discussion, 2 decks from the challenge. We're going to cover one. We're going to do our combat step, and then we're going to cover the other one. So Adrian, at the top of this, let's give our folks our weekly Gush and Monarch watch. How did the top 32 of this challenge shake out for those powerful strategies?
Well, Mike, in our top 8, we have 3 Gush decks, 4 Monarch decks. And you might be wondering what the last deck is. Well, it's Boggles. Unsurprising, given the recent win with the deck. Clearly, it can piece together some good wins. And then in the top 32, we have 10 copies of Gush total and 9 copies of Monarch decks. Most of them being the red-white variety. I think there was 1 mono-black one.
Yeah, there was a mono-black list that managed to make it to 3rd.
Oh yeah, silly me.
Yeah, we're running the new tech that is Dimir Guildmage, and going a little bit further in on it than some folks we've seen. Like, looking through this list, there's an additional Dimir Signet just to kind of enable the card draw half of that. But yeah, definitely a very Monarch and Gush heavy top 8. And then for top 32 as a whole, what's it looking like?
We have 10 Gush decks and 9 Monarch decks.
All right, so out of the top 8, that makes up what 87.5%, and then a math I can't do, but 19 out of 32 decks is well over half. So those strategies still very, very strongly represented within the metagame. but we had 2 decks that we wanted to talk about. And Adrian, I'm gonna leave this one to you. We've got 2 kind of spicy little numbers. We've got one that is a white-blue deck, and the other one that is a kind of spicy-looking Tron deck. Which one of these is piquing your interest to start off with?
Well, the white-blue deck is definitely spicier. This is first shot in 20th place with 4 copies of Aven Riftwatcher. 2 and a white gets you a flying with Vanishing 3. It's a 2/3. When there's the battlefield or leaves, you gain 2 life. 3 copies Custody Squire, a Conspiracy Special. 4 and a white gets you a 3/3 Flying Spirit Cleric with Will of the Council. When Custody Squire enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player votes for an artifact, creature, or enchantment card in your graveyard. Return each card with the most votes. Retire from the most votes to your hand. So it's basically like a super Gravedigger.
It's a super Gravedigger, Oromancer. It does it all.
Right. We have 3 copies Kor Skyfisher. Pairs very, very well with the previous 2 cards. Kor Skyfisher is 1 and a white for a 2/3 flyer. Whenever Kor Skyfisher enters the battlefield, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. A staple in the Boros lists. Here, bouncing cards that are slightly different. You'll see there are no artifacts in this list, but there are plenty of creatures. Following that up, we have 2 copies of Lone Missionary. 1 and a white gets you a 2/1. When Lone Missionary enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. And then, according to Mike, his favorite card in all of Pauper, Mulldrifter.
Mm-hmm.
5 mana, 4 and a blue gets you a 2/2 flying. When it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, or you can evoke it for 2 and a blue.
Yeah.
You also have 4 copies of. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I joked last episode that this is the glue that papers together endless mid-range decks, and this definitely feels like it.
And here we are. And then finally, we have 4 copies of half a Mulldrifter. 3-Ribbon Inspector. White gets you a 1/2. When she enters the battlefield, you investigate so you can get a clue and then sack it. So all those creatures pair really, really nicely with Kor Skyfisher.
I was gonna say, every single one of these has an enters the battlefield trigger, and one of them even has a leaves the battlefield trigger. This is kind of giving me like vibes of what could have been if Boros hadn't been the dominant evolution of like the Jeskai version of these Skyfisher decks. This kind of feels like I'm like kind of peering into an alternate universe of what could have happened. But I guess is there anything else you would be considering if you were trying to cook up a deck like this for the creature suite?
No, I think this pretty much covers it.
Yeah, all these are solid things. 2 Lone Missionaries is a little aggressive, but we haven't seen a lot of burn lately, so I don't think it's completely unwarranted. All right, what do we have for spells here?
I'm glad you asked, Mike. We have 4 copies of Preordain. Blue, Scry 2, draw a card. Classic. Great cantrip. One of the best cantrips. Then we have 1 copy of Rush of Knowledge. 4 and a blue gets you a sorcery. Draw cards equal to the highest converted mana cost among permanents you control. And it's looking like that's Mulldrifter.
It does look like that's Mulldrifter. I guess, at what point do you feel okay about playing this card? Like, what CMC do you have to have on the battlefield before you feel you feel happy about this? Like, are you cool with this as a
Custody
draw
Squire
3?
Too.
Oh yeah, Custody Squire.
No, I would really want this to be a draw 5.
All right,
There's only 1 copy in the deck. It feels like you can wait. If you Custody Squire or Mulldrifter, and then you gas back up with this card, like, if your hand doesn't have a lot going on or anything in it, like, then I think it's at its best.
Yeah, if Mulldrifter doesn't get you there, just digging another 5 deep is probably going to be a reasonable option. Now, I guess the only other thing I have to ask about this card is, have you ever played this in Affinity? Like, I know it's one of the jankier things. Is it good?
You play it with only if you have Gearseeker Serpent.
Okay, or Mirror Enforcer.
Or Mirror Enforcer. Yeah, sure, Mirror Enforcer. I think it's a little bit better in Affinity. Even for 4 with Frogmite, I think it's okay. Mm-hmm. But Thoughtcast is just so much. Thoughtcast is a lot better.
Oh, sure. So yeah, like this. I guess I feel like I'm okay with a draw 3 for 5. And
for 5 mana?
For 5 mana, like, being if you rip this off the top and the biggest thing on your board is 3 CMC, I think there's situations where I
you
just slam
cast
it.
it.
Yeah, I'm just like, all right, come on, just like redraw. Especially like late game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, I just don't feel like it's one of those things where you have to hit it for 5, but less than 3, I'm starting to get sketched out by it. Almost kind of wish that there was like a reasonable 4-drop to play in this deck, just to sort of enable more powerful rushes of knowledge.
Well, there is a 4-drop you could play in white.
Is it Guardian of the Guild Pact?
No, it's Palace Sentinels.
It's Palace Sentinels. Ooh. I kind of don't mind Palace Sentinels in this deck. What would you look to cut from this, and why is it Lone Missionary?
Lone Missionary, more of a sideboard card. I understand why it's in the main deck, though. Burn is quite a force these days. If we go into some of the other cards, I think you could make an argument for... Muldrifter is really the only reason this deck is blue, right? Could you just be mono white? What do you think about that?
Well,
then I guess you're not playing Rush of Knowledge.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe this is just like a straight like just kind of shave the numbers to get a couple of them in. Like maybe go down a Rift Watcher, down a Muldrifter, down a Custody Squire, and jam 3 Monarch cards in there.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
All right. So what else is this deck playing in the way of spells? Because we got through sorceries.
We also have a blue. We got a couple blue splashes. We also have Momentary Blink, 1 on a white, exile target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. Flashback 3 and a blue. So not Ghostly Flicker, but there's no infinite combos, so this is fine. It's better even.
Yeah, I mean, being able to instant speed save your thing from removal or just rebuy an ETB effect feels
all
fine.
Your creatures have value. All your creatures have such value.
Yeah, like none of these are like dead hits with momentary blink. Yeah,
I'm actually pretty excited about the next card.
Yeah.
Summary Judgment.
A card that a card you didn't think was good.
I still don't. I'm just excited. I'm excited to see it in the list. I still don't think it's good. 1 and a white, instant. Summary Judgment deals 3 damage to target tap creature. Addendum, if you cast a spell during your main phase, it deals 5 damage to that creature instead. Still not a fan, but I would like to point out that First Shot is running 4 copies of Journey to Nowhere and an Oblivion Ring. So clearly they want the extra removal.
Yeah. Also, 4 copies of... Oh, sorry. Never mind. I misread a card. Card. Yeah.
I also thought it was the other card you're thinking of, Angelic Purge.
Yes.
I think it's the card that we're thinking of, but this deck is running the spicy Jake Classic Angelic Renewal. 1 and a white gets you an enchantment. Whenever a creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may sacrifice Angelic Renewal. If you do, return that card to the battlefield. Shockingly, no Oromancers.
Well, sir, I think you'll find that Custody Squire actually does get this back.
Oh, there you go. Like I said, Super Gravedigger.
Yeah. I just want to backtrack a little bit. Why are you sort of uncertain about Summary Judgment?
Well, okay. It deals 3 damage for 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As an instant.
Yep.
To a tapped creature.
Yes.
That's just not a good rate. 3, I guess, is a good number in Pauper. I mean, it kills stuff in the attack step. It kills Delvers. It kills Ninjas. It doesn't kill Gurmag Anglers, but, I mean, it doesn't have to because you can just main phase it. The Gurmag Anglers don't have haste. I guess I don't hate it.
I think it's just reasonable.
Press me into it here. Yeah.
I don't think like you play it over Journey to Nowhere, but like if you find yourself wanting, in this case, a 5th or 6th Journey to Nowhere at the 2 CMC slot, I like Summary Judgment because not many people are running around with Ulamog's Crushers these days, and this is just like a nice clean answer to the threat du jour, which I do truly feel is what do you call it? Gurmag Angler.
Gurmag Angler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, not for nothing, this does kill the creatures that Burn plays, including Thermo Alchemist. So it does have some value there. I don't know. I just don't mind this. I like the fact that it's instant speed as well. Like, yes, it doesn't interact with everything in the format at instant speed, but it's like you've played enough white decks to know that like sometimes Journey to Nowhere just you look at it and you're just like, I wish this was an instant.
The white removal is just not very good. I mean, compared to other formats, not very good. Obviously, in Pauper, Journey to Nowhere is great. But yeah, no Swords to Plowshares, no Path to Exile. So you're right. Having an instant speed white removal spell, even if it is damage based, is not awful.
Yeah, I don't think it's like revolutionary or anything. I just think like in this deck, because I don't know if we actually mentioned it, but there's 4 Journey to Nowhere and there's 1 Oblivion Ring here. Like, if you're really going that deep on removal, I feel okay about Summary Judgment. Now, I guess the only question is, like, 1 Oblivion Ring, do you want to tweak these numbers around at all? Like, just as a gut?
No, I truly think they're fine. I like the lower cost ones better than the 3 mana one.
Mm-hmm.
On 3 mana, I want to be doing other stuff. I want to be playing my Aven Rift Watcher. I want to be evoking a Muldrifter maybe. I think 2 is fine.
All right. That feels completely reasonable.
The other thing is, since I just don't think there's a lot of, like, what non-land permanent are you exiling? I guess Pestilence, realistically.
I mean, this deck doesn't really have a great time against Pestilence, but just kind of having it as a catch-all, like, to remove a problematic permanent is nice. And I think also, like, as we mentioned before, like, I think that it is kind of being played here as Journey to Nowhere 5 in heavy air quotes. Like, yes, that 1 mana does hurt, but if you need the removal, you need the removal. And I think you just take the fact that it has incidental upside against non-creature permanents. Do you want what's going on with this land base here?
So a healthy 22 lands, 3 copies of Ash Barrens, 4 copies of Zora's Chancery, 4 islands, 1 Mortuary Mire. Not bad with Kor Skyfisher.
Mm-hmm.
4 plains, 2 Radiant Fountains, makes sense. 4 Tranquil Coves.
Okay, this is reasonable.
It's honestly pretty reasonable.
As always, not the biggest fan of Radiant Fountain, but like this isn't a very color intensive deck.
Right. I don't think there are any double costed cards. There are not.
No, I don't believe there are. I'm not a big fan of a 4 island 4 preordained deck. I can't do that math in my head, but
you have 4 Tranquil Coves, but you're right. You're probably not casting a preordain on turn 1 very often.
Yeah, that's my real thing. Like, preordain turn 1 is not, like, preordain turn 2 is not miserable, but preordain turn 1 is a lot better.
Honestly, I think it's fine to not cast preordain turn 1. I would be more concerned about casting 3-Minute Spectre turn 1, which, again, I don't think the deck really needs to do, but I think that this deck, it's not a combo deck. It doesn't have to immediately start digging for what it needs. If you're in the blind on turn 1 and you preordain, what are you looking for?
I mean, on the play, sure. Like, if you're completely blind, I'm not a big fan of that. But, like, you got to remember, somewhere between half and 2/3 of your games are not going to be blind, right? So,
sure.
I feel like more than half the time you're going to have some knowledge to make that preordain not just completely guesswork. So I kind of like being able to cast it turn 1, but that's maybe just the control player in me. Now, the other one, 4 Angelic Renewals, does that seem high to you?
Yeah, that's a lot, but it's probably pretty central to this deck's plan of Value Town. So I don't hate it.
Okay.
It does seem weird that we're not running Oromancer because it only costs 3 and is, a fun little infinite loop, but Custody Squire is obviously much better, just costs a lot more.
I guess my thing is, like, if you play Oromancer, what else are you getting with it? Because Journeys and Oblivion Rings tend to stick around.
If they die. Yeah, you're right, but they could get blown up. I don't know.
They could get blown up, but like, how many times are they getting blown up? Game 1, right? Like,
sure. Well, don't forget, Mike.
I know.
50 to 75%. Whatever you said.
Don't bring Scott Steiner math into this. We don't need that curse in our life. All right. What about this? What about this sideboard here?
Seems pretty normal. 2 Lone Missionaries, 1 Coalition Honor Guard. which is a flag bearer. That's what you need to know about it. 2 holy lights. All non-white creatures get -1/-1. 1 relic of progenitus. Sun Lance, the white lightning bolt, kind of. Those 3 damage target non-white creature. Thoughts on why that's not just another summary judgment?
I was about to say that. You absolutely read my mind there. I'm just unsure as to I guess like the mana efficiency of it, but at the same time like I mean, I guess Sunlance gets around Dispel? Question mark?
That's true.
Like
That's true.
I don't know, maybe it's just a matter of like diversifying versions of a card so that they're not all weak to the same answer, but I'm not a huge fan of this. I mean, I guess it also the creature doesn't need to be tapped, which is nice.
Right. One extra O-ring. 3 Dispels, 2 Patrician Scorns, which is a sweet card, and 2 Standard Bearers. So Patrician Scorn is a pretty good reason to not run extra enchantments. We already have 9.
Yeah, I mean,
it is. I'm sure it's here for Boggles.
Yeah, it's here for Boggles. Like Boggles just came off hot from a win at the MCQ. Like, I think this is a perfectly reasonable card to run. It's one of the better options for this type of like tranquility effect. So, I'm fine with it. You know what kind of shocks me here? No copies of Prismatic Strands.
Yeah, that seems like such a gimme. Maybe because the deck is running fewer creatures. No, I don't know. Yeah, I really do like Prismatic Strands. It seems like a huge gimme when you're running white creatures just in general. So yeah, that is actually a pretty interesting call out. I had not thought of that.
I mean, I don't think it makes the deck like miles better to include it. It just feels it just feels strange not to have it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything else on this interesting blue-white mid-range deck?
No, I think we covered it.
All right, cool. Do we want to move to combat step and then perhaps on to the second list for the evening?
Yep, that sounds good.
All right. So what do you have for me this week for our combat step?
Well, Mike, I gotta know. The fans want to know too. New slivers or old slivers?
All right. I got one real simple answer. It's old slivers. I prefer the aesthetic, and I think them being universal effects is a lot more interesting because it does mean that there's a downside to playing the mirror.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I agree with you on the aesthetic. The new slivers, I don't like how humanoid they look. I know that that's petty, but I really like the old, like, look at me, I'm a little, it's actually going to dovetail so nicely into what you're about to say.
I did
Slivers are a
realize
lot
that.
like Alien, and the new slivers are a lot like Predator.
God, and now I'm realizing why that popped into my head.
One of them is a franchise, and one of them is not, Mike. All jokes aside, I did not play back when old slivers were a thing. I did draft M14, so I do I do like the dreadlocks that the new slivers kind of have. It's kind of cool. But I do think that the older ones, I agree with you. They're just from a different design period where effects are symmetrical, and that's not unique to slivers. That's true across all tribes.
Yeah,
from,
there were a lot
legions or whenever.
Yeah, there were a lot of like number of X tribe in play, not necessarily under your control.
And I would argue that is actually not good. Because it's confusing from a player standpoint, in my opinion.
I was going to say, in terms of like rules clarity, I think that it's markedly worse, but I do find it interesting from a sort of metagame perspective.
In terms of flavor, it is very, very interesting because it's like, well, of course, the more slivers you have, like they're a hive, right? So even if they're fighting, they're still benefiting from each other. I don't know. It is pretty interesting. But yeah, the new rules obviously don't have that. And then another thing to just sort of throw a wrench in there isn't Coat of Arms from around the same time as Slivers?
Yeah, I believe that's also Tempest Block. And
Yeah,
then
each creature gets +1/+1. Well, actually, coat of arms doesn't really matter. Each creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature on the battlefield that shares at least one creature type with it. So it's also a symmetrical effect, and the art on it's so good.
it is a symmetrical effect. And Adrian, I know you're not a commander guy. This thing is the absolute worst in commander.
Dude, I completely understand. Also, coat of arms was in the premium deck series Slivers.
Oh, it was. That's right. Yeah. That's where that's the printing that I see the most in Commander, because I think it's still somehow one of the cheaper ones. But yeah, no, that card
okay,
is a
yeah,
nightmare.
I can imagine this is a huge. I can imagine it's a huge problem in Commander. That's funny.
I once had a game where I killed someone because of their own coat of arms buffing something I had that was randomly a vampire. Like, it is the most ridiculous card in terms of like actually keeping track of stuff, especially because of how many things have eroded creature types. Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable to actually play with. All right. But anyway, you kind of gave it away, but my wife and I recently rewatched Alien. Well, I rewatched Alien. She'd actually never seen it. It was one of those weird ones where I was like, "You never seen Alien? Let's watch Alien."
Dude, yes. I think your wife would. I imagine she loved it. I mean, strong female lead, great, horror stuff, H.R. Geiger stuff.
Yeah, and
I know you're a big H.R. Geiger fan. Sorry, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, like I'd honestly forgotten how much I like that movie. But my question for you is the classic, the same title as the classic 2000 and I want to say 3 film, Alien versus Predator. Which one?
Mike, I feel like this is just no contest. One of these is an extremely successful franchise, and the other one has an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Obviously, Alien is better, not only from a plot standpoint, from a character standpoint, from a story standpoint. Like the franchise is just objectively more successful and better in every single way. All right, let me back up a little. Predator is cool. The Predator is cool. The movies and the media that he's normally in are not cool.
Are you going to sit here and tell me that the original 80s Predator starring Arnold Schwarzenegger is not an absolute work of art?
It's just not Alien.
That's true. Like, to be fair, Alien has its stinkers. Like, 3 and 4 are not super great, and Covenant, I heard, was terrible, and I haven't seen it.
No, dude, Covenant is really, really good.
Really?
I don't know who told you that, but yeah, Covenant is, I think, better than Prometheus.
Not setting the bar high here, but
all right. Full disclosure, I liked Prometheus quite a bit. I like Prometheus. I like Covenant. I'm really excited to see where the third one in the prequel series goes, and I'm really excited to see how it ended up, where Ripley finds it. But so you should rewatch Prometheus and Covenant now that you have freshly rewatched the original. I say that because there are so many callbacks in those movies, and you'll be like, "Oh, that's what they meant when they said this. Oh, that's clarifying this." I like those a lot, and also, Ridley Scott directed those, and H.R. Geiger, his feeling is very, very prevalent in those in a way that gets lost in the later movies. By later, I mean the 4 and 5 or whatever, Resurrection and whatever the third one is called.
Alien with a 3 replacing the E. 90s were not kind to film title.
I had it, and the only reason I'm telling you this is did an Alien movie marathon recently. We watched Prometheus, Covenant, Alien, Aliens, and it was awesome.
All right. I'll consider it, but we're getting wildly off topic. All right, so
sorry. I love Aliens.
So both Alien the franchise and Alien the sliver design. All right. I feel like we came out of that one in agreement. All right. So, rounding things out for this evening, we have one more deck list, and this one's not going to be one that we dwell on as much because I feel like this is something we've kind of seen before, but it's got some spice, and actually makes me eat my words because first creature I'm going to call out here is 3 copies of Ulamog's Crusher. After I said no one was casting it much nowadays.
Well, luckily for us, Paulo Cabral, who, and I'm sorry, Paulo, if you listen to the show or if anyone knows him, old grinder, I want to say, doing work with this Tron list.
Yeah, and this one was mainly our pick for the second deck because of exactly one card, and that one.
Yeah, and we can talk about that one card and then do a different deck too if you want. But
Oh no, I think there's enough interesting stuff here because this does kind of buck the trend. So that one card in particular is Reap and Sow, and if you hadn't guessed, this is a Tron deck. And its spice is in the form of Reap and Sow, which is 3 and a green for a sorcery. Choose one, destroy target land, or search your library for a land card, put it into play, then shuffle your library. And it has Entwine for 1 and a green, so you get to choose both if you pay the Entwine cost. So, what about this four copies of Reap and Sow really caught your eye?
so yeah, I was cruising through the lists, and Reap and Sow is like, well, that's awesome because not only do you get to destroy your opponent's land, always a good thing, but you also get to go find a Tron land. And I don't think this card is good until you already have Tron, like truly good. But if you can just keep ramping out Urza's towers and blowing up your opponent's lands, like that's good.
All right, now swift counter here. We just talked about the fact there were a bunch of Gush decks running around. Is this really
Okay,
where we want to
you're
be? While Gush is in the
Okay,
format?
you're right. That's actually a really good counterpoint because you're right. It is not good against Gush. And I would also argue Tron does not need this card to beat Monarch. I think that matchup is super duper one sided as is. So yeah, you're right. What is this card here to beat? You could argue that it's here to beat a bunch of all the other random stuff, but obviously, 30th place, 31st place, I mean. The top 8 is full of Gush decks. So you're right. Is it really the place we want to be? I would say maybe not, based on just this one tournament. Obviously didn't pan out as well as it could have, but that might have been a host of other factors. I don't know if it's completely because of Reap and Sow, but you're right. It does seem like a big liability in the Gush matchups, and also just straight up counterspell. They don't even need to Gush. They can just counter this.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't have that many counterspells. You have like a single Condescend. So
I meant yeah. I see.
yeah. I'm saying for like counterplay, like if your opponent goes to do something, and I guess like there is a modicum of value in like baiting out the Gush so that you can condescend it instead of them actually getting to resolve it. But I don't know. Reap and Sow seems weird in this metagame. I guess it does punish any deck running Karus pretty hard, right? Like,
right. But you're right. I don't know if Tron really needed that. Now you're making me second guess myself, Mike.
Well, so looking at the rest of the creature base, like it's got the 3 Ulamog's Crushers, but it also has 4 Muldrifters, 2 Mnemonic Walls, and a Dinrova Horror. And then looking through like the rest of this kind of looks a little bit like a spicy take on the older Pulse of Marasa-Tron decks. And I'm kind of wondering if this is like a deck that got put in the vault a while ago by the player, and like they popped it out for an event and it did well. I don't know. This feels weird.
It's also got Sprout Swarm, which is kind of cool.
Oh, wait, where are you seeing Sprout Swarm?
It's the last. Oh wait, sorry, I'm looking at a different Tron. I'm looking at the 32nd place Tron deck, which is playing Sprout Swarm. My bad.
Whoopsie. All right, but
that's still cool.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. This deck is not.
I mean, we could actually talk about both of these Tron lists since like Tron did not have a great showing this week, but like these two on the surface look pretty similar. Like they're both playing the Dinrova Horror Mnemonic Wall Muldrifter package, but like in actual application, these two are miles away from one another. Like one of them has even cards Justice and Sprout Swarm. The other one has this Reap and Sow, as well as like I'm just gonna say it. I think the sideboard in this thing is weird.
Yeah, let's run through that real fast. 1 copy Moment's Peace. That's not that weird.
No. 4 copies Circle of Protection Red. 4 copies of Hydroblast.
Someone did not want to play against Burn.
Yeah, and 3 copies of Pyroblast as well. Like very, very taxing mana requirements off of, as far as I can see, 3 copies of Painted Bluffs and 4 Prophetic Prisms. I'm not sure how I feel about this sideboard here, man. Like,
I think Tron can make it work.
I I don't really think it can. I think that like that amount of like colored mana requirement is actually really difficult for a deck that mainly runs colorless lands and doesn't have a lot of ways to filter its mana. Especially because the one signet it is playing is blue-green.
Yeah.
Now I will say, like, I don't mind Circle of Protection Red as like an option for the burn matchup, just because how does burn beat Tron with an active Circle of Protection Red?
Yeah, they just have infinite mana.
Yeah, in comparison, like obviously not literal actual infinite mana. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of weird, and I guess it leads to the bigger question, like, what is Tron doing these days? Because like every time I see a Tron deck, it looks a little funky to me.
Yeah. Take you to Funky Town.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm just reading over it. You're right. It's pretty intense mana requirements. Sorry, I'm just looking over the list.
I mean, even looking at other ones that are in this top 32, I'm seeing like, I don't know, maybe that is just the tech now. Like up in 26th place, I'm seeing another list that also has the full 4 Hydroblast, full 4 Pyroblasts.
Are we just old and irrelevant now, Mike?
We might just be, because none of this feels right to me. All right, now those are the two interesting lists. Is there anything else that really stood out to you about this particular challenge result?
Yeah, if we go back up to third place, Grant Flies, doing well again with Mono Black. 2 copies of Cemetery Gate. It has protection from black. It does an 05.
Deep Spice.
I have heard it is here for Gurmag Angler, but it's also going to get Snuff Out.
Oh, you haven't even come to the ultimate tech here, Adrian. It doesn't die to pestilence.
Well, I mean, oh no, you can never kill it with pestilence. All right.
Yeah, it just survives pestilence. How do you feel about this though, just in general? Like, it's cute, but is this a case of something being too cute?
Well, clearly paid off, so I can't argue with that. Yeah, I'm trying to marshal my thoughts here. I am concerned for a format that main decks sideboard cards.
I mean, how well does an 05 line up against just like random other things though? Like if you're trying to be the control deck.
Okay. You're right, because against everything except like flyers, it's actually pretty good. There's not a lot of 5. The only other card that I can think of on the ground even would be Ulamog's Crusher. Basically anything else, this stops.
Yeah, it's not a perfect answer for like early game plays, but like I don't know of much where they can sort of cleanly get through this. So I don't think it's the worst. I get what you're saying about like main deck sideboard cards, and the format is definitely at a place where main deck sideboard cards are a little bit more common than I think I'd like to see, but I don't think this is a case of that. Now, I also want to talk about like some of the sort of techie like choices in terms of removal here. Seeing the 2 Grasp of Darknesses and like 2 Wrench Mind. I don't know. This feels simultaneously both very old school and very new.
Wrench Mind seems like it's back on the menu. Of course, not great against Boros, but good against basically everything else right now. Affinity's not really a deck anymore. That used to be the biggest argument for not running Wrench Mind, is that Affinity was a deck, and it's just not.
Well, I mean, if we look at the top 8 here, like even half of the Boros decks aren't running that many artifacts. So, like,
you're right, and you're right, and the second place and the first place lists don't have any at all.
Yeah, like I don't think it's that bad of a call anymore. I mean, I guess they do have. I don't know. They don't even have the lands. Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, the Boros bully lists just don't rely on the artifact package at all. They're about getting cards in the graveyard.
Yeah, like I think against most of the decks in this top 8, like that is a discard too for 2 mana. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
I was gonna say I think that is a reasonably astute call for like the current state of the metagame and the fact that people aren't playing artifacts. So I don't feel as bad about that being main deck. Yeah, and what do you think about like the one Dimir Signet in the main deck as opposed to like other blue lands?
I think Dimir Signet is fine, honestly. I've left the list. I think Dimir Signet. I think it's fine, and the reason I think it's fine is because it's also ramp. So it lets you skip ahead a little bit on maybe casting, on activating those abilities. So I don't mind it. I like it.
Oh, I guess that's true. Like you can, yeah, okay.
Dimir Gilmerich's abilities is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at there. It does also let you like get to Thorn of the Black Rose turn 3, or just like generally ramp yourself by 1 mana. Yeah, I guess I don't hate that. I like it as a one of. I don't think you want to get too cluttered with them because I don't think the deck always wants it. But I think the times that it's good, it's going to be. I think the times that it's. What am I trying to say? The times it's good, it's going to be good. I don't know how else to say that. But I'm just looking through here. Like, I don't think most of the time you really like. You're going to have specific hands for that card, not to be like a reasonable ramp thing. If nothing else, I'd be curious to see if this deck could like get by on more untapped basics in exchange for a little artifact package. I think it would be interesting as like an experiment. But
you mean like, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like shaving the aqueducts in favor of like I guess like those are
this deck has a lot of lands.
Yeah, 24 lands, 4 Karus at that, like it can make a lot of mana.
That's pretty high for. Yeah. Well, that's also, big pestilence activations. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure like if you go up on Dimir Signet if this can continue to be a pestilence deck, but I don't know. And then sideboard of this is pretty much exactly what you'd expect. I like the Kumbaj Witches out of the sideboard, just because I'm not sure that is a great option anymore in the current metagame, just with Bully becoming such a force and it not really lining up well against Kumbaj Witches. And even Gurmag Angler not really lining up well with it. I do like the fact that that's kind of becoming a sideboard card for matchups like Elves. So I think that's a good call. All right. Any other lists you want to touch on, or are we running out this episode?
I think we're good. I think that's really there's another like High Priest deck in 6th place, 10th most High Priest, and I'm trying to say
supporting Tireless
Tribe. Yeah, okay, that's good. Oh, Jared James got 7th. Congratulations, Jared James.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Boggles in 8th, and yeah, I think we're good.
All right, wonderful. And I did notice that Boggles list is the I believe the one that we saw at the MCQ, pretty much exactly.
Oh, sweet.
All right,
so that deck's here to stay.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. All right, how about you take us out of this show, and we can wish those folks a good evening.
Yep. Thanks for joining us today. This podcast is brought to us from our patrons, including Forrest Bump, which is a great name. Please consider supporting us if you like the show. Check for this video, the description of this podcast for details on where to find us. We'd like to remind you, if you're listening to this on a platform with reviews, they're always appreciated as they boost our visibility. If you've got a deck list, an idea for a topic, you can contact us either via our website or you can email us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. Special thanks to my LGS, Pat's Games, Matt's Mike's, LGS JP Comics, and of course the ever-talented L. You can find our theme song, Quantitative and other great tracks over at soundcloud.net/ELLELLELL. Next week is Adrian and Mike, and we are signing off for Color Commentary.